guys, Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters. So, I went and purchased this paper pack from the reject shop. It was $8 for 20 sheets. I wasn't 100% sure how thick the paper would be. I assumed it would be a thinner cardstock, but I was surprisingly happy. It was thicker than I expected, so it's not so bad. And for this particular project, I actually wanted it a little bit thin anyway, because I want to do some origami folding with it, so I wouldn't want it to be too thick. So I've just cut a square that is 20 centimeters squared, and I am creating a star. So I didn't invent this origami star. If you put that into YouTube, you'll find many tutorials for it. You could slow mine down and watch it if it makes enough sense for you. This is not really a process video on how to make an origami star. I'm just showing you what exactly I have done to create this bunting. So hopefully it's making a little bit of sense. This part is all the easy part anyway. You'd be able to follow this part along. It's the next sort of bit that gets a little bit more tricky as it goes. But I'm not following, like I did a couple of practice ones, don't get me wrong, but I'm not following any instructions now. Once you've sort of done it once, it does start to make sense and you can just remember and flow with it. It's not as hard as it sounds. So you kind of end up making a pentagon for your star base, and then you're folding up to the fold lines, where like the 2 points there are meeting the fold lines, if that makes sense. As I said, this is not really a tutorial on how to make these origami stars. Jump onto someone who's much better at origami than I am. This next step did get me a bit tricked. So basically you fold the first one up along its fold, and then the next side you want to fold it along its fold line, and that forces that corner to pop out. So you need to fold that corner. I'm going to stop trying to explain this. This makes zero sense. This part as well I thought was really tricky, but as long as you pinch the corners out to face you, it kind of just does it on its own. The folds are already there and it just sort of falls into place. I know it didn't look like it, but it really truly does. So there's the first start of your star, but it's not quite finished yet. So now I am folding the last little bit, the little pockets of the points. It just gives the star a thinner, more origami feel to it. Now, in the end, making this bunting, I probably didn't need to spend all this time making a million of these origami stars. I'm not 100% sure you can tell that they're origami stars. I possibly could have got the same effect by just cutting a star shape out with one of my star dies, because I do have those, but I just liked the idea of sort of the 3D effect it gives, being a little bit different. And originally in my head I hadn't thought I would end up covering up so much of the star that I do. I thought I would leave it more starry, but in the end I end up piling a whole bunch of stuff on top of it and you can't really see it anymore. So I got this idea that I wanted to use this sort of organza type material. Sorry for the shaking. I only do that once because I know how horrible it is. But it's just to show you, I ran it through my die machine. The reason why it shook oh so much is because I had an extra piece of cardstock in there just to fatten it out a bit, because obviously the organza's nothing. And it still didn't quite cut, but it only was a tiny bit it didn't cut. So I just finished that off with my scissors. And I'm just showing you here as well that all these letters were different styles of chipboard, and I just got a normal Sharpie and coloured it in black. So you can sort of see in the background there, I had 3 different styles of character. The real reason why is because I didn't have enough letters to write Merry Christmas in the one style. So, and I didn't have enough to write it in 2 styles either. I needed to have 3, but I did keep them in pattern. It kind of goes style 1, style 2, style 3, style 1, style 2, style 3. So it looks a little bit more cohesive. It doesn't look like I've just got random letters everywhere. It does kind of go together a little bit. kind of. So yes, I'm just colouring these in with Sharpie. Sorry about that, that was a little yawn. And then I'm just showing you here how it looks finished as opposed to the chipboard. So that's just straight Sharpie on top there. But I decided that that's not quite the effect I want. I knew this in the first place. So I've also got out my Dimensional Magic, and I then sort of paint that or dab that on top as well, just to give it a nice shimmered, glossy effect. So I'm just putting my pin in the point there just to make sure the nozzle is working. This was gifted to me, this stuff, and the person that had it before me, I don't know what exactly they did, but they bent the nozzle. And so even though it might not necessarily be blocked, I put the pin down in there as well because it actually helps straighten the point of the nozzle back straight again. So for those of you that haven't worked with this kind of Dimensional Magic concept before, you paint it on, and I'm just using the nozzle itself. I'm trying to get it as even as I can and to not leave too many streak marks from where the nozzle was. You could possibly get a paintbrush to help smooth it out. I don't bother because I'm lazy and I want it to be as quick and as seamless as possible. Just giving it a few little taps there just to sort of spread it and even it out like you would with a cake. You know how you pour the batter into your cake tin and then you pat your cake tin down on the table, it gets all the air bubbles out and things like that. Just a similar concept there, just to make sure it's all nicely even, no gaps, no streaks. And I do bring it when it's wet up to the camera as well, just to show you how that looks wet. And you can see that it's not 100% perfect, but it dries pretty good. So I left it the way it is. So here it comes now. I'm just working on this board, not because I'm worried about my craft table or anything like that. It's actually for ease of being able to move these. So now that they're all wet, I can pick them up and put them way out of the way, because knowing me, I'm going to get my elbow in them or something and they'll be a disaster. So I cut 1-inch strips of paper in the same, all the 20 colors that I used. It's not 20, it's 17 maybe, that I used for my origami stars, and I'm now going to be making pinwheels. So I don't have a scoring board, so basically I am using my slicing tool, my paper cutter, and I'm just running the end of a biro lid, the pen lid, down where the cutting part would be on your slicer, because it's got a little indent there, and it's helping to form that fold line. And I did this with all of the little 1-inch pieces of paper because I know it's going to make folding so much quicker and so much easier for these pinwheels. And I'll show you that process as well, not because making a pinwheel is hard, but just to show you how much quicker and easier it is to fold it up. And it also means that I'm getting more equal folds. If you do it by eye or by hand, you can often end up getting a bit wonky and having some folds bigger and fatter than the other, and your pinwheel's not sitting flat. Whereas this way, I was always scoring the same at the same point on the ruler, so I knew that each fold was pretty much exactly the same. And so I'm just folding in, out, backwards, forwards, in, out, accordion style. And you can see how quick it is. The only thing I'm really having trouble with is holding that whole strip in my fingers because it's getting too big. So there's my little accordion, and you can see it reaches all the way around, no problem. So that's a full 12-inch size. So it's 1-inch by 12-inch, if that makes sense, to make this pinwheel. And I'm just cutting off that little bit of excess and then joining the ends together with some double-sided tape. And then I realize once I've done that, and then I push it together in the center and have a look at how this pinwheel will look. Oh, come on. How hard is it to join this together? Come on, stop fiddling. What am I doing? Oh, I need more tape apparently. Right. Come on. Gosh, I'm mucking around, aren't I? Join this together. And then I push it down to have a look at the pinwheel and realize that's not going to stay by itself. Where are my circles? So I go and grab my circles that I cut with my die machine. And for the purpose of this section of the video, I just stick this pinwheel together with double-sided tape. If you are making these at home, it is unlikely, it's not 100% certain, but it's unlikely that double-sided tape is going to be strong enough to hold that pinwheel together. It's natural, like it naturally wants to fling back out again. So I do end up using my hot glue gun just to secure those a bit more strongly, but I didn't bother showing that in the video. So there I've got the origami stars. I'm just putting some glue down in the center. Then I am sticking on my organza circles, and then I'm sticking my pinwheel to the top. And I'm just using, I've got green, red and gold of the organza, and then I've got the same color pinwheels as I have of the origami stars. So I'm just making sure I sort of spread it out. I don't want to have anything's the same. You know, I don't want red on red and green on green and things like that. I want to try and spread them all across the different stars. So I just show you this process for a few of the stars, not for all of them, because it's the same thing over and over and over again, and that would be very boring. Please don't try sticking your fingers straight onto the hot glue like I am doing if your hands are not used to touching hot things. It will hurt you. My fingers are just used to it. I don't know why, because I'm a bit of a silly person when it comes to using gloves and protecting my fingers. But that organza is very thin, and so sticking your fingers straight onto the hot glue there could potentially be a bit painful for some of you, so please be careful. So I'm going to stop there with the process of sticking those all together, and there they all are. How cool do they look? And now I'm just going to lay them out ready for adding the lettering. So I've got an extra one at the start, an extra one in the end, and one in the middle between the Merry and the Christmas. So I'm just laying them out, and I'm trying a few different things. I don't want to have the star itself next to, like, you know, two red ones together of the actual star. I also don't want to have the organza, too many of the organza colors. Like, I don't want two red organzas next to each other. I don't get it 100% perfect in the end. It's not too hard. I could have worked it out, but I was in too much of a hurry. I wanted to keep going with this process. So it still looks great. I'm happy with it. But in the end, I just go, oh, this is fine. And I stick the letters on. Because once I've done this, I then also think, oh, actually the letters on black are really quite hard to read because the letters themselves are black. So I try and swap the black circles, the black pinwheels, out to be the first, the last, and in the middle, because they don't need to have a letter on them. I do have more stars than that, more pinwheels than that in black than 3. So there are a couple of letters that still need to be on the black, but I try and swap out the 3 that I can. And as you can see, I'm just having a fiddle now with the layout and with the order and all of that. And yeah, in the end, I just stop and stick all the letters on. And I just hot glue gun those letters on as well. Oh, it came off. Come on, back you go, pinwheel. Yeah, I just hot glue gun the letters on to secure those on as well. So once I have finished hot glue gunning all the letters on, I decide a couple of them, especially the first, the last and the one in the middle, need something a little bit special. So I pull out an old Kaisercraft collection I've had for ages that I've still not been able to finish using, and just pull out a few of the things that I think would work well as embellishments on here. So there's a little gingerbread man, a gingerbread lady, there's a little bauble or a couple of little baubles off a Christmas tree, and then there are some stockings. So I end up cutting the stocking garland up. They started off large stockings and got progressively smaller. So I put the biggest stocking on the spare star that was in the center of Mary and Christmas, and then I just popped the other stockings and baubles and things like that on the other letters. No real rhyme or reason to which letter got an embellishment and which letter didn't. It was all just about one that had the room, things that weren't right next to each other, just that kind of thing. So now I have just got white cotton that I'm using to stick all these together to make the garland, the bunting, sorry, the hanging part, and I am done. So that is a really dodgy photo of it hanging across my wall because it's quite large. But I wanted to sort of give you a bit of an idea of how it hung and how it looked. So I apologise that these photos are so awful. The lighting is awful and the effect is awful, but it gave you a bit of an idea of it hanging up. And then there are some close-ups of the letters that have the extra embellishing on it. So you can see the origami stars do have a little bit more pop to them than what a flat star would. So hopefully you enjoy this. Maybe you'll make a bunting as well for Christmas. Have a great day, guys.